Hi all, this is one of two videos that I'm doing to go over the private label leads spreadsheet. This first one is just to go over how it is set up, what each of these columns mean, and then I'll do a additional video that will go over how to use this based on what your budget is, what your goals are, and maybe what your skill level is to determine the best way to filter these results down to give you the best private label product idea. So the way this is organized is each row that's here represents a private label idea, and this is the data associated with it. So in this particular spreadsheet, we have 60 ideas for private label products. So let me go over each of these columns and give you a little representation of what they mean. For column A, this is a reference number. So this reference number is referring to a private label product idea. The reason I use a reference number is I can share this information with anybody. Anybody else can take a look at this without providing the private label idea until somebody purchases it. So when somebody wants to purchase a particular private label idea, they would provide a reference number, pay for that, and then I would send them all of the research data associated with that. So that's why we have a reference number here. Column B is the primary category. So there are multiple products and keywords associated with each of these ideas. So this is the primary category that each of these ideas is associated with. Column C is looking at what the page one average sales is for this product idea. Column D is the page one average reviews for this product idea. Column E is page one average price. Column F is the page one average margin, and margin in this particular case is the profitability after Amazon's fees. It does not take into account the product cost or shipping costs or any other fees associated with it. So essentially, if you take column E and subtract out column F, that gives you what the Amazon fees are on average for this particular product. Column G is the average length in inches, and this just gives you a representation of how large this particular product is on average. And correspondingly, column H is the average weight of the product. So on average, you get a sense of how heavy this product is. So obviously, looking at a product that's very small and lightweight is going to be cheaper than a product that's heavier and bigger and longer in length for both shipping and fees associated with it. So it just gives you that aspect of the size of the product and potential additional costs associated with it. Column I is the average monthly search volume for the product idea. Column J is the estimated initial budget required for launch. So here I'm looking at multiple keywords and how much it costs with each of those combination of keywords to launch that particular product based on how many it sells per month on average, the landing cost of it, fees associated with it, etc. And so I'm looking at multiple variations and combinations of that and coming up with then an average. So it is estimated, but it just gives you a kind of a ballpark area of how much money you're going to need to actually launch this product. Column K is the estimated net profit after launch. So there's a launch phase where during the honeymoon period, you're doing whatever you can to get sales, to get organic ranking. And then once that's established, you're going to continue to try to grow that product and rank for additional keywords. But this is an estimated what the profitability is after you do that launch longer term on average for that particular product. Column L is the expected number of monthly sales at launch. So it takes a little while to ramp up sales. So compared to column C, this one is looking at several factors and kind of estimating based on the keywords that you would potentially target for your launch, what kind of sales you would expect monthly at the time of launch. And this column L probably would be lower than the long term, but this is what it would be at that launch phase. Column M is the competition level. So we're just giving you a sense of how competitive that particular product is. The color coding indicates more positive to negative. So green is lower competition versus yellow versus red. And we'll talk about that in the next video of really what this means and how to utilize this information in making a decision on what product to pick. Column N is the confidence level. So I'm looking at a series of different indicators within a product and then being able to look at those and do reverse engineer and seeing what products have succeeded and which ones didn't do as well. Testing phase wise, I've been able to identify those particular indicators for each of these product ideas, and if they're ranking high for those indicators, then we will then rank those as a higher confidence than products that are not ranking for those indicators, and those will then have a lower confidence level. I would say that medium confidence level is middle of the road. That's an expected that it's going to do well, but the other ones, high versus very high, have a higher chance of succeeding relative to the medium. I would say when you look at all of these data points within the spreadsheet, use them more as relative to each other as opposed to absolute values. So if you see, for example, the number of sales, one here for row 2 is 547, and then row 3 is 2279. While these are an average and should be pretty close to representation what you can expect, I would say row 3 has, let's just say, 4 times the average sales than row 2. Not necessarily that one is 500 and the other is 2200. So that's the way I would look at all of these data points in here relative to each other, and the same way with the competition level and the confidence level. It doesn't mean necessarily that just because, say, something is high competition level, that is necessarily a negative, but just relative to a product that's low, you would have probably a harder time to get it to rank relative to each other as you're comparing them for an evaluation of how competitive that particular product is, and or the same with the confidence level. So that's all I want to go over on this particular video. The next video, I'm going to go over how to use this and take into account your budget, your goals, your skill level, and make determinations on how to pick products.